Aristotle wrote a paradox that says, in drama, the probable impossible is to be preferred to the improbable possible. Now, I'm sure it sounded less gaudy in Greek, but essentially he said that it's better to have a plausible reason for something happening than something that, if given time, could be proven to be probable. So today, we're talking about this topic, which is probability and chance. In his writings, Aristotle said that there is no time during the rush of dramatic action for your audience to do the math and weigh the odds for and against an event happening. What he says is that if a thing seems plausible, your audience will accept it just like that. This stems from the idea that the stage, what he was basing his ideas on, was a place where actors would hold a wooden sword and the audience was supposed to believe it was metal. If your audience is already in the mindset of believing what you show them, they are likely to accept your maybe not that probable outcome from your story.
I see thee yet. In form as palpable as this is written how I drew. Thou marshall'st me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses.
This is an issue that we can run into if we are trying to write something based on true events. A fact can be true, however, that's not as important when you're trying to tell a story. This is why your favorite sports drama says based on true events, and changes some things. Because drama is a fickle thing, and sometimes what actually happened just isn't as dramatic as it needs to be. Because we are not in the business of telling the facts. We're in the business of telling the most dramatic version of the story. Making your story plausible works on 3 different levels. First is the outer level, making sure that everything feels like it works together. It doesn't necessarily have to be period accurate, but it needs to all feel like it comes from the same time and place. The second level of plausibility is of the events that are not as a direct result of the conscious will of the characters. These are the circumstances over which we have no control. Things like the weather and seasons of the year, holidays, and whatnot. These are the things that absolutely can affect the story, but are not beholden to the will of the characters involved.
What can we do?
Nothing, she swims through.
And the third level that plausibility can be achieved is the psychologically plausible. The plausibility of events that are entirely dependent on the characters. This is when the character finally gains that maturity that they need to rise up against their adult oppressors and carve out a life free of those problems. And of course, this is the most important level of plausibility. Your audience will accept a dress that doesn't come from the exact time period much more easily than they will accept a sudden maturity of your character that isn't properly set up. You can absolutely have chance and coincidence in your story. These are a part of life, and the more your audience feels like the story you're telling is the truth, the more they will enjoy your story. And there's one general guideline that we suggest you think about if you're going to use chance and coincidence. Lean toward it being a negative for your protagonist. The more your character gains from coincidence or chance, the more your audience will roll their eyes. But the more your character suffers because of chance or coincidence, the more they will sigh deeply and say, I've been there. In your life, you've probably had many times where it feels like everything bad that happens tends to happen in groups. It's never just one bad thing, it always seems to be a few or more. So by using this universal truth in your story and piling up negatives for your characters, your audience will relate to them even more. But like we always say, this isn't a rule, just a guideline. There are certainly times where your character can gain something from chance, and the audience will be okay with it. But be careful with using this too often. The last thing you want your audience doing is checking out of your story because, well, they got lucky and it worked out. And as always, keep writing.